All bolted to the stand, ready to start and warm up. We'll see what she does. The last engine put 164.1 horsepower out, and it was a 1641. That's an insane amount of power out of such a little engine. I don't know if this thing's going to make 160 horsepower. Well, that was short-lived. We started this thing up, and we instantly heard a clacking. We had eyes on this thing the entire time at the show, but it sounds like there's something in the top of this cylinder. So we pulled out the spark plug, and sure enough, looking at the end of the spark plug, something's bouncing around in there. We flash a light in there, and we can see the top of the piston. Looks like it's getting hit by something, which is unfortunate, which means I got to pull this head off, and I can't run this thing on the dyno. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to make lemonade out of lemons. I've got a nut in cylinder number 1. I've got Tyler. I've got Adrian. We're going to pull this thing apart, pull that nut or whatever the heck ever dropped into this cylinder out, and put it back together. And if we're lucky, at least maybe they'll let me throw the engine on there and see what it does with a slightly damaged piston. Hopefully the head's not damaged. Anyway, we're going to pull it apart, see if we can get it back together, back on the dyno. Well, we've got it apart. It wasn't as simple as just pull the nut out, because there is our damage, and it is, I think it's done. And in the head, yeah.
Is the barrel okay?
When it happened, it actually ended up cracking our barrel. So, I mean, the engine's real clean otherwise, but
We got took a bolt, nut.
took a nut right through the top of it.
Broke the barrel too.
Yeah, and that's the kicker on it. They're looking for him.
Adrian's looking. He's
So-
got 92 tick roll.
The nut is through the piston, and that thing's destroyed. It's not just pull it out and put it back together, it's pull it apart and put on some new parts. Man, this is a bummer. But we'll see what we can do. Yep. We'll pull that as long as well, there's no cooling anyway, so just let it go. Yep.
Can't handle that RPM.
Nope. None of that went as I planned, or as I imagined it might. Friday, I worked on that engine. This would have been, I want to say, Friday the 7th. I had the engine here in the shop, tuning it, air cleaners on, and I probably ran, well, all in total, I ran almost 5 gallons of gas through that engine.
Had that nut or whatever piece of metal decided to poke a hole in the top of the piston, had that been in there at any point up to then, it would have made itself known. To all the guys at EMPI, from Adrian, Tyler, Henry, Anthony Chica, going through and machining down the heads, all the competitors just going through, and as I was going through and rebuilding the engine, for them to come by in between their dyno pulls and everything else, just to make certain that I had everything ready to go and offering assistance. All the guys behind the scenes at EMPI, from IC on the cameras and doing all the social media stuff and getting all the live streams set up, and all of his crew that were working on those cameras, and the computers, making sure that all worked smoothly. And all the guys back in the shipping department and the packers and the pullers, everyone at EMPI was super friendly. All the guys in the machine shop in the morning, as we get in there, they're doing their stretches and stuff before they go out, and I jump in there and do push-ups and jumping jacks and stuff with those guys. It was a bunch of fun. Everybody at EMPI was very, very awesome and accommodating, and it was a great place to be. The whole engine battle, in hindsight, I guess I should have brought along a videographer. I had to walk the line of actually living in the moment, because let's be simple, this is a dream job. I get to sit here and work on Volkswagens and show you guys how to work on Volkswagens, hopefully, or at least maybe give you guys some entertainment. But I mean, for someone like me, at the end of the day, I'm just a hobbyist. I do this for fun, and it's also a job. For someone like me to be able to go out to an event like this, to get to be in the company of, I mean, we're talking some engine building greats out there. I should have videotaped more, but I had to sit back and let this soak in and really live in the moment, as opposed to film the moment, with my camera out on myself the entire time. Sitting in the company of people like Rick Wright, and John Benton, and John from Powerhouse, and Steve from Wolfgang, and just try to absorb some of their knowledge. Pat from Tafta, the guy is an engineering wizard. Who built a 400 cubic inch flat 4 engine? Well, Pat from Tafta. So along those lines, I just want to thank everybody at EMPI, from Rob, Robert, Carl, all the sales guys, Adrian, Leonard, Joni, Mike, who I oftentimes called Carl, my apologies Mike, Julio, all the guys running the dyno, Victor, Tyler, Chuck, Larry getting in the way of shrapnel coming off my fan as it exploded. Terry, not his dyno, he did the best he could trying to get the handle of what was Jack Sacchetti's dyno, and he got better day by day, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not his machine, and it's really hard to go into somebody else's art studio and make a work of art. So I can't thank the guys at EMPI and all the competitors enough. As far as the competitors go, Adam and Tanner from Seward Speed Shop to win the entire competition with a 1721cc engine. My hat's off to them for winning the competition. A 1721cc put out 205 horsepower. John Benton, a 1641 on the day of the battle, put out 154 horsepower. That's just crazy. During the prelims, right before my engine blew up, 164.1 horsepower out of a 1641. The thing was just screaming, it's crazy. John at Powerhouse, the guy just built an incredible looking engine. The thing was just, it was art. It was mechanical art. Every bit of everything on that engine was just detailed to the nine. And then later going to his shop, as John and his wife Stephanie opened up their shop to help all the other competitors, virtually everything in their shop was that same attention to detail, just absolutely beautiful, nothing out of place. And what gracious hosts to open up their shop, their race car, their dyno for other competitors to help them tune their engines. It's just, that's the Volkswagen community in a nutshell. People like John and his wife Stephanie and all the crew there, just to help people in need. And it's just, thank God for people like that. To get to meet Steve from Wolfgang International, Trina and their dog Cora, a huge 187-pound Dane. Jim and Amy from Jim's Custom VWs, they were there, they were great. and just to be able to sit in these people's company is just, I'm forever grateful. Another top performer, Damien, the father, and his son Nathan from D&J Auto. 205 horsepower again, I believe. I'll have to go back and check the numbers. But from a 1915, Rick Wright and then Jesse from Wright Gearbox. Wright Gearbox actually built the transmission for my 1971 Super Beetle that we did a couple years back on the channel here. Another competitor from our neck of the woods, so to speak, Doug's Bugs and Bunnies came out at the very end. They weren't there for the competition. They had some prior engagements. Hank the son, Fish the dad, put together a beautiful engine. Some more time in tuning and that thing's going to be a good little street motor. And like myself, they built a street motor. You know, our engines, they're specifically in mine, to the best of my knowledge, were built to actually go in a car and move it down the road as opposed to go in a dyno and put out the highest numbers. So a little bit more down-to-earth compression ratios. I was only at 10-to-1. I'm not certain what they were at. Pat and Josh, I mentioned Pat earlier, the guy that built a 400 cubic inch flat 4 engine with his own foundry. I mean, the guy's got a foundry. This guy's just, you know, an absolute genius. And they came out with a monster engine. And just couldn't get the tuning right. They're going to get it figured out, I'm sure. But meeting them and getting to hang out with them and everybody else was great. You just, like I said, it was an honor to be able to get to spend time with these people. Of all the competitors that were there and the guys that were in the contest but didn't necessarily compete, Tom and Tucker from Twin City Euros, they had some problems last minute with getting the engine running and just couldn't bring their engine to the competition, but they still showed up. They were still there to help all the competitors and cheer us all on. And I've been in contact with Tucker this entire time, even up until just yesterday when he and his girlfriend decided to, instead of fly back, because where's the fun in that, they bought themselves a 1971 VW bus out in California after the show, and they're driving that back to North Carolina. And they rolled through yesterday. I helped them swap out a starter because the original starter just didn't want to click over off the solenoids. We got him some other parts as well that he might need for the journey home, and he and his girlfriend are going to make an adventure out of this whole thing. My hat's off to them, Godspeed to them on their journey, and I'm going to be in contact with him, I imagine, for quite some time. We've become good friends, and that's what Volkswagens do. They just bring people together. Our engine is on its way back to us from EMPI currently. We're going to pull it all apart. We're going to inspect it, see what needs to be replaced, and we're going to rebuild it, and we're going to make it better. We're going to put some different heads on that that don't require as much work on the intake manifolds as far as getting the intake manifold matched to the cylinder head. I think we're going to go stage 3 heads instead of the D7000 heads. Instead of doing the thick wall 92 millimeter pistons, I think we're just going to go with the 94 millimeter pistons, since they actually fit the head much better. Hopefully they will fit the case. I'm pretty sure those cylinders are 94 at the case, not 90.5/92 at the case. Hopefully that's the case, no pun intended. Probably going to have to replace the connecting rods because of the damage that that one connecting rod took from the debris that went into the engine. Rebuild it, and that's going to go in a car. That's a great little engine, basically 150 horsepower and 150 foot-pounds of torque. That's nothing to shy away from, and because it's that little horsepower compared to some of those other big numbers that those engines at the competition put out, it's not a lot of work for that big of an engine to put out that little bit of a number. So that should be a cool running and reliable engine that can go in a street car and drive enjoyably and safely down the road on the street, as most of us like to do, as most of us aren't driving down a drag strip all the time. So stay tuned, we'll see what the future holds for that engine. In the meantime, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this series on your end as much as I've enjoyed it on this end, even with all the timeline and time crunches and all the literal shrapnel, a little bit of sparks. And like I did at the competition, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. When life gives you broken engine parts, make some art. This is Sam with JBugs.com saying thank you all.